Everyone, welcome. I'm Andrew Neville. It is the Running with Heart podcast, episode 24. I'm currently on mission 231, and that is all about running the Larapinta Trail, the Sonder Monster, as part of the Westmax Running Festival, starting on May 20th, 2022. It's less than 12 weeks away, and it's running the entire Larapinta Trail in the Northern Territory, Australia, all 231 kilometres of it. And I'm doing it with Heart, for Heart, the Heart Foundation, in support of the Heart Foundation of Australia. And so far, let's get straight into where we're sitting with the fundraising. We're currently sitting at around $9,260, which is awesome. Still have a long way to go. My goal is $23,100, and we've still got some fundraising events to come up if the environment is kind to us in terms of weather, in terms of COVID. We've had some obstacles there, but we're still confident. I'm still confident we can get to $23,100. Thank you for support, everyone so far who has donated in any way and any amount. It all adds up. Very much appreciated. We do have the kilometre dedications still. They're still available, lots of them. $50 a kilometre, and you get to dedicate that kilometre in the race, and I'll run that kilometre to the person you dedicated to. So you buy a kilometre for anywhere from 1 to 231, dedicated to a loved one. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who has suffered or is suffering from heart disease. It can just be a gift to a loved one to show that you love them. It's all about heart. And when I run the Sonder Monster, that kilometre I will dedicate to the person you've dedicated to. You get a certificate to say which kilometre is dedicated and to whom. And all the money goes towards the Heart Foundation. Now we've still got over 200 left. We've sold over 20, I think, or around 20 maybe, maybe just under. If we can sell all 231 kilometres at $50, it's over $10,000 for the Heart Foundation right there, and puts us really close to the goal of 23,100. So the link is below if you're interested in dedicating a kilometre to a loved one. Please do that. It'll take you to the fundraising page, the Do It for Heart fundraising page for Mission 231, and you'll donate, if I can get it out, you'll donate $50, and in the message section, put which kilometre you would like and who you'd like it to dedicate it to. If the kilometre is already taken, I'll get in contact and we can arrange another kilometre. I can tell you 231 and 230 are definitely gone already. Okay, let's get into the podcast. I want to have a look at what's the plan from here on in. I've been busy scribbling and plotting the training from this point on. As I said, we're into the serious end of the training, the business end of the season, as they would say in a season sport like football or netball, cricket. We're at the business end of the season, 12 weeks to go. I'm happy with where I'm at with my training. I think I spoke in the last episode. I probably feel like my training hasn't been as consistent as it needs to be. But then when I look at my training diary, week to week, day to day, the consistency is still there. So it's an interesting, I guess, feeling you could say. As I said, I just have that feeling. It doesn't feel like I've been consistent, but I have been. So it is funny. And I'm not sure what's generating that. Whether it's the high bar I set myself with training, whether maybe I'm comparing, and comparing is a horrible thing to do, but whether I'm comparing myself to the lead into the 100 kilometres Craig and myself did at the end of 2021, maybe it just doesn't feel like the training has been at that same level of, like, maybe not intensity, but level of consistency is the word to use. Perhaps I'm finding the training easier. Maybe it's not as draining. What I have been doing differently, I have been giving myself Saturdays as a run-free day. Have been doing some bushwalks and some walks in general with Monique, and that's been really enjoyable. But I haven't been running on Saturday. Now, leading into the 100K, I was doing those back-to-back runs on weekends, Saturday, Sunday. So perhaps that's what it is. Maybe that's why I don't feel the same consistency level that I should be at. And looking ahead in the next 12 weeks, I'm maybe the crossroads isn't the correct term, but looking at those back-to-back days on the weekend, do I run a Saturday and Sunday, or do I keep myself fresher and not run on the Saturday and do the long run on the Sunday? I'm at a crossroads there as to which way I should perhaps go. And maybe it'll be a mixed bag, so to speak. So one week I'll do a Saturday Sunday run. The following week it'll just be a Sunday run. Then again back to Saturday Sunday, and then again the Sunday. So maybe mixing up that way is the way I'll go. I have a 2-page, like an art book, I guess, spread at the moment with all the columns drawn up in rows, 6 weeks to a page, and just plotting out that last 12 weeks. So what I feel it's more about now is getting the specific. I'm not even going to be able to say that. Getting more specific with the training for the event. So making sure the runs are on rocky ground, making sure it's on single track and technical terrain. Yes, still need to have the longer runs there, and by the longer runs, I'm talking 4+ hours. But now the endurance is good, and again, I touched on it, I believe, in the last episode and I've heard some of the elites write about it and talk about it, that if you can run, they say 50 kilometers, the rest becomes mental after that, and so the training we've been doing to this point is based on 100 miles, which is around 160 Ks. So if we can be physically ready for 160 Ks, I believe the next 70 Ks that comes after the 160, it becomes all mental. Okay, you've got to be mentally strong to go that extra bit. I don't think there's much more physically you could probably prepare for to go from 160 to 230. But mentally, there's a lot. So I'm happy with where my endurance is at. Yes, as I said, I've got to keep the longer runs in there, but it becomes more specific now. So lots of hill repeats, lots of elevation weeks. We're talking in the event 8,400 meters of elevation. So we've got to make sure the legs are strong enough to do that and ready to do that. And the body's ready to do that as well. So lots of elevation, lots of hill repeats, I'm thinking. I'm looking at the race starts straight up Mount Sonder. So we're talking a 7.5 kilometer climb from the get-go. And so looking around the local area, like, what can we do to really get ready for that sort of impact? So the drift in Lithgow, which is roughly about 2 kilometers from State Mine Gully up to the top. I'm looking at doing that as hill repeats, probably every fortnight from here on in. Starting today after recording the podcast, I'm heading to Lithgow to do my first hill repeats on the drift. And the aim is to do two lots of the repeat. So 2 kilometers up, jog it down, 2 kilometers up, jog it down, and then build on that with a rep each fortnight. So become 3 in a fortnight's time, and then 4, and then even up to 5. Garland's Hill for me here in Portland, it's a 7.5 kilometer climb from my house to the top of the hill. So it's not going to replicate Mount Sonder, because Mount Sonder is on trails and rocky, where getting to the top of Garland's is tarred road. But again, it's 7.5 kilometers climbing, so I can step out the door and start. And that's what the race does. They say ready, set, go, and you go up Mount Sonder. There's a few hills out Sunny Corner, Dark Corner way I wanted to go target. I've had a mate telling me for a while now, go run Mount Horrible. So I haven't even driven up Mount Horrible. I haven't seen Mount Horrible that I know of. So I want to go out there and run that. So getting lots of elevation in, that's part of getting more specific with the training. Probably more tempo runs. So again, that's just helping the legs speed. And it's not like we're not in the race to win it. We're not qualifying for the Olympics or anything like that. But we are on a time limit. And the more you can be used to having that threshold that you can work at, again, the better response you're going to get from the legs on race day. So looking at including some tempo runs. And again, that's good for mental strength training as well. In this last week, I actually ran out to what is commonly known by locals here in Portland as Third Dam. It's 6 kilometres out in the state forest from Portland. And so I ran out there and back, and I was on a time limit because I had a personal training session to get to. And I think it was 70 minutes I had to do it in. And so I decided to make it a tempo run instead of a recovery run. and it took me 36, 37 minutes to get out there, which means I had to get back in 30 minutes to have a chance to get to personal training on time. So it was a really good push, and it's actually, I believe, the fastest I've run on trails. I did, yes, sub 5 minute kilometers on the way back, and there were a couple there which were 4:40s, I think. And it was a really good push for me, really good push to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And it was a good step forward in my mental strength and in my anxiety, one being out there remotely on my own, but also pushing to that intensity, that level. It was a really good step forward, a big step forward for me, and I was really proud of it to be able to get back in the sub 30 time coming back from the dam in that 6 kilometer distance. So that was really good. So more tempo runs, I think, is important. And yeah, not only the physical benefit of the tempo runs and the hill repeats, but you get the mental benefit there, mentally stronger. And of course, I spoke about in the SWOT analysis I did in the last episode. I hope you took time to do your own SWOT analysis since the podcast where we talked about that, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But one of my weaknesses I listed was night running. I haven't done a lot of night running, and so when you're looking at 2 full nights out there, you've got to be ready for that. You're talking almost a third of the race. A third of the race being done at night potentially. So it's pointless training continuously in daylight when you're going to be spending a lot of time in the dark. So it's getting used to the head torch, how to operate it. What you get different luminums. I've actually just bought a new head torch, ideal for ultra events. So it's a Pezel Neo Plus. Pezel Neo Plus. I call it pretzel, so I've got to be careful when I'm talking about it. I don't refer to it as a pretzel, but Pezel Neo Plus. And I've only run with it once, and that was in the early morning, and it was already starting to go light, so I didn't get the full benefit of it. So keen to get out there in the darkness, in the forest, on the trails, and try it out and get used to operating it at the different brightnesses and seeing what works. And it's funny, you go from, and talking to Craig about this last night, he did some night running the other night, and you go from running in daylight into a twilight situation, so you've still got a bit of light happening around the edge of the track, and then suddenly you put the head torch on and you've got darkness, and all you can see is this ball in front of you, this ball of light basically, and everything else is dark around that. So it's getting used to that sort of movement. And they say too, if you're not used to it, it can actually cause a bit of motion sickness because of that staring at just that small, area of light, for a choice of a better word, and then the darkness being surrounded can actually cause, and that's obviously bobbing as you're running along. So yeah, it's something to get used to. So night running is part of the next 12 weeks as well. Got to be at least one night run a week. I didn't get one in last week, so I'm disappointed with that. But yeah, going forward from here, 12 weeks, there's no time for excuses now. There's no time for shortcuts. It's getting into and getting the drift done, getting that elevation done each week. It's getting the hill repeats done. It's getting the tempo runs done, and it's getting the night running done. And then to top off the 12 weeks, I'll probably look at about 5 weeks out from the event, a big weekend of training where I'm considering calling it the Little Sonder and potentially doing 115 kilometers, so half the distance of the race over a 3-day period. And again, that's just get used to the time on the feet and continually getting used to going out and running, feeling fatigue, feeling heavy leg, feeling tight muscles, the nutrition, and even potentially doing that. So you're potentially talking 40 kilometers each day for 3 days, thereabouts. But even doing that, not in one go, but in 3 separate runs on each of those days. So, for example, let's say it's going to happen on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a 5 a.m. run on a Friday for maybe 2 hours, and then a 1 hour run in the middle of Friday, and then a 2 hour run Friday evening, maybe on dark. On the Saturday, maybe go at about 7 o'clock, so early morning, but it's light, and then maybe a late afternoon, and then maybe an 11 p.m. run. And so you're doing 3 different runs on 3 different days at it ended up being 9 different times. And again, just that training of continually having to go out, feeling tired, the start-stop motion even, just to make it a little bit harder, and different times of the day, because we're running for up to 60 hours for the Sonder Monster. So you're going to be running in the early morning. You're going to be running mid-morning. You're going to be running middle of the day, the early afternoon, the late afternoon, the early evening, the middle of the night. It's all going to be run time at some point. So it's important to be used to that. Getting used to being running when the body's used to sleeping is another thing to address. And so the next 12 weeks is all about getting specific and making sure not only do we maintain that endurance that is built, but we now focus in. It's like getting the magnifying glass out and focusing in on each of those weaknesses that we talked about in the SWOT analysis. So it's going to be a busy 12 weeks. It's an exciting time though, because you spend 12 months or it's been 11 months of training and preparing, and now you can almost see the start line. It's getting that close. So it is exciting, as well as the nerves do start to climb up a little bit as well. I want to talk this fortnight with this episode of the podcast about heart disease and risk factors. Now, part of Mission 231 is not only raising money and awareness of the Heart Foundation, but it's also about awareness of heart disease, which is Australia's #1 killer disease still. And so an important area or topic of that is our risk factors. What risk factors do we carry or should we look out for in terms of heart disease? Now, you have two types of risk factors. You've got controllable risk factors and you've got the uncontrollable risk factors. So by controllable, it's things that we're talking about that we can actually make a difference to. We can actually change a little bit to reduce our risk of heart disease. And then the uncontrollable risk factors are things that we can't do anything about, but they're there, and we just need to be aware of that. So we'll start with the uncontrollable risk factors. There's 3 of them: your social environment, your ethnic background, and your family history. You can't do anything about your genes. You're stuck with them whether you like it or not. Your family genes are in you, bred into you, and you can't change that. So there's a history of family heart disease. It's important to be aware of that. And a lot of the time when you do pre-screening questionnaires, it might be for sport or even to go to a gym, you will get asked that question: is there a family history of heart disease? And if there is, you are more at risk of developing heart disease. So it's something to be aware of. So talk to your family, talk to your parents if you can, your grandparents if you can, and find out, is there a history there? How far back does it go? And see if heart disease is in the genes and in your family history. Now, I want to put the focus on the controllable factors, okay? Because they're the ones we can make a difference to, we can do something about, we can change. And so we have 7 of them to look at. The first one is unhealthy. What I'll do, I'll go through the 7 and then we'll look at a little bit at each one. So the 7 controllable risk factors for heart disease: the unhealthy diet, unhealthy weight, blood pressure, being inactive, smoking, alcohol, and cholesterol. So 7 controllable risk factors. And you look at each of them and straight away you're like, maybe I could do something about that. Or you recognize that in maybe your own lifestyle habits. And so straight away, there's some changes you can make to reduce your risk of heart disease. The unhealthy diet. Have a look at how you're eating, when you're eating, and what you're eating, and how much. Have a look at that and see, are there changes you can make there? Can you speak to a health expert there, a nutritionist or a dietitian that can help you maybe look at some changes to your diet that can make it more healthy? Unhealthy weight. Are you overweight? Are you obese? Is there something you can do about that? What can you do about that? And it can lead into another controllable risk factor, and that is our activity levels. We're becoming more and more a sedentary society, hence why we see an obesity epidemic happening as well. So can we increase our activity level each and every day to help us reduce maybe some of our body weight that we're carrying? Being active will also help us reduce blood pressure, which is another controllable risk factor of heart disease. Important to get your blood pressure checked regularly by your GP as well, your doctor. So maybe next time you go to your doctor, or if you haven't been for a while, make an appointment. Make it a deliberate effort to go to your doctor and say you just want a health checkup. What is my blood pressure? Get your cholesterol checked. Okay, there's another risk factor of heart disease. Do you know your cholesterol level? Do you know your blood pressure? These are things we can go to our doctor and talk about and get tested on. So one, we know exactly where our blood pressure and our cholesterol is sitting, and do we need to do something about it? And again, the doctor is there to help you do that. So important to look at your blood pressure and your cholesterol. Being active, I touched on as well. How in our day can we be more active? What can we do to become more active? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be taking up a sport or taking up walking, running, cycling, swimming. It can be just incidental activity. Maybe we're already walking or running, but is there something we can do in our day to add more steps to it? Can we walk to work? Can we walk to the shops? Can we walk to pick up the kids from school? Where in your day can you find time to add more activity, whether it be incidental or deliberate activity? So yes, running, walking, cycling, swimming, playing sport. And again, being active will help reduce other factors, risk factors of heart disease. And then if you got the smoking and alcohol, do you smoke? How many a day do you smoke? Can you cut that back? Can you cut it out? And the same with alcohol. How often do you drink? Can you reduce that? Can you have an alcohol-free day a week? Can you have an alcohol-free week a month? And again, talk to your doctor about steps you can do there to either maybe look at quitting smoking or cutting back on the alcohol. So the controllable risk factors: unhealthy diet, unhealthy weight, blood pressure, being inactive, smoking, alcohol, and cholesterol. Now, with the being in activity, I just want to touch on that because we've got fundraising activities for Mission 231 that address the inactivity of the population. We've got the skipping challenge, we've got the walking challenge, and we've got the running challenge. Maybe at the moment you're finding it a bit unmotivating to get outside and to walk or run or skip or just to be active. So maybe by signing up to a challenge, it might be the little bit of motivation you need to increase that activity level and improve your health, but also reduce the risk factors of heart disease. So below in the show notes, I'll put the 3 challenges that we have. The skipping, the 231 skipping. Can you skip 231 times over the rope? You get a jump rope for Heart Foundation skipping rope for signing up for the challenge. It's $20 to sign up, and your aim is to skip 231 times, 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And that's just develop that habit. Walking. Can you walk for 23 minutes and 10 seconds 3 times a week for 4 weeks? Or can you run 2.31 kilometers 3 times a week for 4 weeks? They're the 3 separate challenges. They're $20 each. You don't have to do all 3. Pick one. Pick one to help motivate yourself to get outside, to be more active. And that's what they're about. It's about forming the habit of being active. Skipping, walking, and running. 3 options there to increase the activity level and decrease the risk of heart disease. Sponsorship before we sign off for another episode. Currently asking businesses of all sizes whether they're interested in sponsoring myself and my running team. It takes more than just me to run an event like this, the Sonder Monster, the 231 kilometers. I have a crew coming with me. I have a running buddy who's there with me in training and is doing the race as well. They're part of my team and they're there to motivate me and help me to the end. My crew is going to be responsible for being at the different checkpoints along the 231 kilometers and having my nutrition there ready for me, ready to change shoes or socks or clothing or my pack. Make sure it's my bladder on my pack is full of liquid and fluid, so I'm ready to take on the next section. They'll motivate me in my down times, in my dark times. They're responsible for getting me back out on the course. So obviously involved in that is the cost of their travel, driving up there, accommodation, and then obviously the equipment involved in running an event like 231 kilometers in the desert for myself. Shoes, pack, watch, if you want to add that to it, There's lots and lots there. I have a list here of the equipment, just to name a few of the things that I require. So you've got trail shoes, head torch, running pack, nutrition and fluids, compression wear, socks, GPS watch. My team that's coming up, my crew that's coming up to help me on the race days, will travel 5,254 kilometers return trip just to get there and back. They're looking at 7 nights accommodation, and they're taking time off work as well to do that out of the goodness of their heart. I'm truly thankful for my awesome team behind me. But so looking for sponsorship to help just subsidize some of those costs. So if you know a business, or if you are a business that would like a bit of promotion, please get in contact. Again, the details are below. As part of the sponsorship package, you will get acknowledged in all press releases, and there's going to be press releases from this week in local newspapers, and then there'll be one 9 weeks out from the event, 6 weeks out from the event, 4 weeks out from the event, and 2 weeks out from the event. So you get mentioned in the press releases. You get mentioned on my daily posts on both Instagram and Facebook, the Running with Heart posts that I do. In my YouTube vlog, so I'm documenting the whole journey, the training sessions, the podcast. You get mentioned in that. You'll get, and I do at least three vlogs a week with my training on YouTube. So you get mentioned on that, and of course my podcast, the Running with Heart podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify or watch on YouTube. One episode every fortnight. You'll get mentioned in that as well, and acknowledged for your support of Mission 231. And as well as all that, on the shirt, which you can see I'm wearing, the Running with Heart shirt, which I'll be wearing race day, and the crew will have their shirt on the side of the course. And I wear this in training as well. You can have your business name or your logo. So I won't go through all the details. There's different levels of sponsorship depending how big you want the logo, where you would like it on the shorts or shirt, sleeves, back of the shirt, front of the shirt. There's all different levels there. But if you're interested in sponsoring, please get in contact through the details below in the show notes. It'd be much appreciated. Really appreciate the support of Mission 231 and my entire team that's helping me do the mission as successfully as I can, if I can get it out. Everyone, I believe that brings us to a wrap for our podcast episode. Please, in the next 2 weeks before we speak again, make sure you be active, get outside, do something. If the weather's no good, do something inside. Look up a exercise on YouTube even. Come up with a little circuit routine. Be active, and whatever you do, do it. Running with heart. Thanks for the support, everyone.